My name is Lucas, and this is the story of how I discovered the hard way that sometimes the person you care about the most can take you for granted until it's too late. Sophie and I met during our early 20s. Back then, we were inseparable. One of those couples that people look at and say, yeah, they're meant for each other. We had the kind of love that seemed effortless, late-night trips and intense chats, just two folks totally engrossed in each other. When we married, it felt right. We had dreams, big ones, traveling and creating a life together, perhaps even start a family down the road. And for a while, everything was ideal. But, hey, life happens. I was creating my firm from the ground up, working long hours and making sacrifices. But no matter how busy I got, Sophie was always my top priority. I made time for her, whether it was modest surprises, spontaneous date nights, or simply sitting down and talking after a long day. I always made sure she knew she was important, and at first she appreciated that. She was proud of me, encouraging, and my biggest fan. However, she gradually began to change. At first, she complained about not having enough time for herself. She said she needed to focus on herself. And to be honest, I backed it. We all need room to grow. However, it eventually evolved into something different. She began talking about putting herself first. And at first, I assumed she meant self-care. She enjoyed working out, reading more, and doing things that made her happy. But it is not what she intended. She really meant to do whatever she wanted, regardless of how it harmed our marriage. She quit trying. She wasn't concerned about our plans. She scarcely asked about my day. However, she continued to demand me to treat her as if she were the most important person in the world. It was as if she wanted all of the perks of marriage without having to become a wife. At first, I convinced myself that this was merely a hard patch. Every marriage experiences ups and downs, right? So I did exactly what any loving husband would do. I tried harder. I avoided conflict as much as possible. If anything bothers me, I will first attempt to talk about it. However, if the situation escalates instead of being resolved, I will swallow it rather than argue. I began surprised her with gifts, small things. I knew she liked flowers, perfume, and the pricey handbag she'd been coveting for months. Anything to let her know I still cared, that I was still present. But none of it made any difference. She thanked me a few times, but there was no genuine feeling behind it. No actual joy or appreciation, just a half-hearted smile. Before she went on to anything else, probably her phone, I heard her mention she wanted some space, that she needed to discover herself. At first, I didn't question it. I thought, maybe she's simply figuring things out. So I gave her the room she requested. I stopped attempting to pull her close. I allowed her to go out more. Let her have her nights out. Allow her to do whatever she felt she needed. But months later, this isn't helping. She grew increasingly self-absorbed, as if she were the main character in a story and I was merely a supporting part. Someone there to serve her rather than be loved by her. She began acting as if she deserved more, as if she was settling by being with me. And to be honest, it stung. I watched as the woman I fell in love with drifted away, thinking that she could do better than me. When you love someone who does not value you, it is difficult to think clearly. You begin to question yourself, wondering if they're correct. Maybe you aren't good enough. Maybe you are the problem. I spent so many nights staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what happened. What did I do wrong? When did I cease being enough for her? But deep inside, I understood the truth. And no matter how much I loved her, I couldn't help someone who wasn't willing to be saved. I wasn't sure how long I could pretend everything was fine. Then came the night that altered everything. I'd been waiting up for hours, staring at the clock and hearing the cars pass by outside. Sophie had come home late before, but this night felt different. When I finally heard the door open, I breathed, attempting to control my emotions. I did not want to dispute. I was too tired for another argument. She entered, tripping slightly. Before I could turn to look at her, I was assaulted by the stench of alcohol. She hardly acknowledged me as she tossed her bag on the couch and kicked off her shoes. I controlled my wrath and asked Sophie, "Do you even know what you're doing? This isn't simply about arriving home late. You are pushing me away. I've been patient, but you don't act like a married woman anymore." She rolled her eyes as if I had told her the most absurd thing ever. She then chuckled, smirking lazily. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "Do you believe I need you? Do you honestly believe you're that special? Many males want me. If you depart, I will replace you the next day." I felt my chest tighten but didn't let it show. She was not done. She straightened up. "I'm done following your rules. I'm done following anyone's rules. This is my life. Neither you nor society will tell me how to live it. I'm currently in my baby girl stage." Lucas. Either cope with it or not. That was it. That was the moment I realized I'd lost her. Perhaps she had lost me. I did not argue. I did not yell. I did not beg her to see reason. What was the point? She had already determined who she wanted to be, and it was not the woman I'd married. So I finished the last thing left to do. I'll give her the life she wants, and I will walk away. The next morning, I searched for and called the top divorce lawyer in town. I didn't want to draw things out or make her life tough. I simply desired a clean break. We had no children, so the legal procedure moved quickly, and I was not about to battle over furniture or pooled bank accounts. Things were resolved without much back and forth. I didn't care whether something was fair or unfair. I just wanted out. I did not even show up to the final meeting. I let my lawyer handle everything, and after the papers were signed, I followed through on what I had promised myself. I disappeared. No calls, no texts, and no lengthy emotional messages. I was just gone. At first, she didn't appear to care. If anything, she seemed relieved. She convinced herself that this was her new beginning, her opportunity to finally be free. I caught flashes of it on social media, pictures showing her out with pals, beers in hand, celebrating like it was a victory. Her posts were captioned with messages of new beginnings and understanding your worth. For a while, it appeared that she had moved on without a second thought. She returned to the dating scene almost quickly, and of course, there were plenty of males looking to amuse. However, something was different now. She was not the prize she believed she was. Sure, she received attention, but not in the way she had hoped. The men that chased her were not searching for a commitment, just having a fantastic time, and those who were prepared for something serious. They were not the type of men she desired. I wasn't there to see it personally, but I heard stories. She moved fast through relationships, bouncing from one guy to the next, never finding anything that stuck. They left one by one. Her once cherished attention began to feel hollow and worthless. Slowly, the assurance she previously exuded began to shatter. For the first time, she was alone. Not by choice or for self-discovery, but because she had pushed away the only person who truly loved her. How did I know? Remember, we have mutual friends that still talk to her. And as for me, I was not looking back. Following the divorce, I had a decision to make. I could have entered another relationship, looking for someone to fill the hole. I could have buried myself in useless flings, distractions, and fleeting highs, but I knew it wasn't the answer. And that was not what I wanted. I'd spent too long losing myself in a marriage where I wasn't seen. It was time to make a decision about me. So I did. I immersed myself into my business to rebuild. I focused my work on strengthening and developing what I had developed from the ground up. It wasn't simply work anymore. It reminded me that I was capable and had a purpose beyond being someone's husband. Slowly, I began to see results. My business grew off in ways I never expected. And for the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my own life. Simultaneously, I concentrated on my physical and emotional wellness. I went to the gym because I wanted to feel stronger again. I began focusing on eating better, sleeping better, and taking care of myself in ways I had neglected for years. I understood that certain individuals will never appreciate your efforts, no matter how much you give. I refused to accept anything that doesn't give actual worth to my life. I wasn't going to let loneliness deceive me into returning to what was comfortable or pursuing relationships that weren't good for me. I learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. I grew at ease in my own company, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Slowly, I flourished, and it was my greatest victory. It had been years since I last saw Sophie. That day, I was simply going errands and picking up a few items from a department store. When it happened, I turned a corner to see Sophie standing just a few steps away, carrying a shopping bag and staring at me as if she had seen a ghost. I almost didn't recognize her. She still looked great. She always took care of her looks. Her eyes examined me. Lucas. She finally spoke, her tone cautious and almost hesitant. I nodded with a courteous smile. "Hello, Sophia. It's been a while." She gave a hesitant laugh and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Wow, you look different." I shrugged. "Yeah, life has been fantastic." She began asking questions, hoping to keep the conversation continuing. "How have you been? What have you been up to?" I responded lightly, never giving her too much, keeping things light. I wasn't nasty, but I wasn't meeting her expectations. I didn't know what was going through her head. After a few more minutes of small conversation, she grinned, uncertain. "Maybe we can catch up someday," I grinned back. "Yes, maybe." I knew we wouldn't. Because of that, a chapter in my life was closed. She contacted me many days following our encounter. It began with a simple message. One of those casual. "Hey, it was wonderful to meet you the other day via texting." I paused before responding, my fingers hanging above the keyboard. Despite my better judgment, I responded. From there, the conversation gradually picked up. Nothing deep, nothing emotional. This is just small conversation, catching up. Nostalgia creeps in, filling in the holes where anger and resentment used to exist. Over the next few weeks, we texted back and forth. She'd send a random message about anything that reminded her of me, and no matter what, I couldn't deny it. The feelings were still present. You do not cease love someone overnight, but I realized that love alone wasn't enough. The trust was long gone. One evening, she suggested we meet. Just dinner. Just to discuss. Part of me wanted to say yes, I will not lie. I was tempted, but I paused to ask myself a question. I'd been avoiding this the entire time. What was the point? What was I actually looking for? An apology. Some type of explanation. A chance to mend what was already damaged beyond repair. No. Deep down, I knew the truth. I didn't need her to provide me closure. I needed to give it to myself. So, I declined. Not with bitterness, not when you're angry, just something simple. I do not think that is a good idea. It took me a long time to realize I was broken. I didn't want to accept it, but Sophie had caused more harm to me than I realized. Not only because she departed, but also because of how she made me feel before to her departure. Unworthy. Replaceable. I felt like I wasn't enough. At first, I assured myself everything was good. I concentrated on my business, exercised more, and surrounded myself with friends. But no matter how hard I tried to distract myself, there remained a weight in my chest that refused to go away. I realized that if I didn't deal with it, it would follow me through every aspect of my life. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I went to therapy. I will not lie. At first, it felt bizarre to be sitting there talking to a stranger about all I had spent years hiding. But week by week, I began to see things more clearly. I was not stupid to fall in love with Sophie. I was not weak in trying to rescue my marriage. I was simply a man who had given his heart to the wrong person. That was not my failing. It was simply a lesson I needed to learn. Healing was not immediate. It wasn't like waking up one day and feeling liberated. It was all about the simple moments. So I burned all bridges with Sophie. No more texting or small talk. What is left? And I concluded the story with her was ended. Before I erased her phone number, I sent one final message. Not because they are angry, not out of spite, just the truth. I wish you the best. Looking back, I used to believe that the only way to move on from someone who had injured you was to get even and demonstrate to them that they had lost something significant. But I realized something along the road. Revenge is a waste of energy. Sometimes the finest revenge isn't really revenge. It's simply moving on, becoming the best version of yourself, and allowing them to observe from a distance. That, my friends, is just what I did. Here's the next story. None of this would have happened if my wife, Reena, hadn't been the most neurotic and suspicious person I'd ever known. Every detail of life was classified, and information was only communicated with those who needed to know it. Apparently, being her husband did not qualify me for that. I adored her, but obtaining even the smallest amount of information from her was like hauling a mountain uphill with 40 mules. She had the ability to transform something as simple as a grocery list into a top-secret CIA file, which she passionately guarded. Her paranoia was almost comical at times, but it usually crept under my skin and stayed there. We were just your normal middle-class couple looking for some quiet and happiness in the big metropolis, but her continual security freakouts could send me over the edge. It all started approximately 15 years ago, just before we got married. She fell victim to a petty identity theft. Someone got hold of her credit card information and sold it to a redneck in Tennessee. Before the card was canceled, the guy purchased a motorcycle and several cases of liquor. As far as identity theft goes, it was rather small. They even caught the person red-handed and put him in jail for a while. There was no impact to her credit score. Just one of life's minor bumps, right? Not Reena. DEFCON 4 was a big deal for her. The steel walls came down, locked, and remained bolted tight for years. Our house, in a perfectly safe neighborhood, became the only one on the street with burglar bars on all of the windows, a top-tier security system, a second monitored alarm, and to cap it off, a position on the local constable's particular watch list. And it was only the physical stuff, her personal laptop. She guarded the thing as if it contained the crown jewels. Most of the time, I ignored her paranoid tendencies, amused by her oddities, but there were times when I had to draw the line. I stood my ground while she flung crazy allegations and occasionally household objects at me. I might occasionally win a battle or two. And when it did, the makeup sex went off the charts. Nothing beats a paranoid lady when it comes to hot makeup sex. One of the few battles I won was convincing Reno of the importance of regular system maintenance and data backups every 6 months. So, like clockwork, on the 4th of July and New Year's, I am granted supervised access to her prized laptop. She used to have a desktop computer, but I gave her a stylish new laptop for Christmas last year. You would think I gave her the nuclear football. The way she guards that thing is comparable to a Secret Service member hovering over the codes for launching nuclear weapons. Like her pocketbook, it never leaves her sight. I've even caught her taking both to the potty. Years ago, she experienced a computer crash and lost her bookmarks, old emails, and other data. This is a common occurrence. You learn from it. You back up your belongings and move on. But for Reena, it felt like a personal apocalypse. Somehow it became my fault, and to this day, she has not forgiven me. I'd apologize, but that would just reinforce her beliefs. Plus, I still have no idea what I allegedly did wrong. She never allowed me to touch that computer, let alone handle backups. So, on these few, closely regulated occasions, I'm allowed entry to what she considers her hallowed shrine. Her laptop. The security on this system is really ludicrous, and I should know because I installed the most of it. If Reena could get her hands on a retina scanner or some other high-level biometric protection to prevent 99.9999% of humanity from even seeing her Windows boot screen, she'd have me set it up in an instant. Her laptop currently has a BIOS password and 2 distinct OS login windows, each with a unique password. Furthermore, every file is compressed and encrypted using 256-bit security. But she did not stop there. Her Firefox browser, Outlook email, and Microsoft Office applications are each password secured, and that is not all. Her data files are primarily a jumble. Word documents contain an additional layer of encryption. Online shopping. Forget it. Her credit cards have never been stored on a website. According to Reena, there isn't enough tea in China or web security around the world to ensure safe online purchase. I'll concede she's not entirely wrong there. However, the level of paranoia is really high. Here's the kicker. Reena is not a high-ranking government figure or corporate executive. She works as a mid-level editor for City Style, a local glossy magazine that is distributed for free in the Sunday paper. The journal raves about art galleries, museum exhibits, hip clubs, and the greatest places in town to drink a margarita or martini. They occasionally grow old and cover costly restaurants, talk about top-tier plastic surgeons, or preview fall fashion collections from major department shops, and surprise, all of these excellent reviews are for businesses who also pay to advertise. Really hard-hitting journalism, right? There was nothing on her laptop worth caring about. But good luck persuading Reena of that. I am now the IT manager for a small but profitable commercial real estate company. I manage some secret information for the owner and the chief financial officer. But nothing justifies this level of government-grade security. It's all about proportions. People. Unfortunately, Reena was completely unaware of this. That finally led to the unfortunate and unnecessary end of our relationship. When July 4th came around again, it was time for the semi-annual routine of dealing with Reena's excessive laptop security. This time, however, I was prepared. She marched into my home office, laptop held like it was made of gold, and we got right to work. After she covertly entered her boot up BIOS password, we stalled our way through the other login security screens. Finally, I was unenthusiastically entrusted with her most valuable possession and given the customary dreadful warnings about the unspeakable horrors that would await me if the slightest file was mishandled. Castration with blunt, rusty instruments was simply a warm-up. The real fun will begin later, she told me. In 15 years of marriage, she has never realized that I do this for a career. I suppose it is her sheer lack of trust in everything that drives me crazy. Trust is truly the foundation of any relationship, let alone a successful marriage. If your partner distrusts everyone and everything, the situation can quickly get tense. For the first step, number 1, I created a ghost backup image of the complete hard disk on my main backup server. This would give me a snapshot of her hard drive and its highly encrypted data, in case something went wrong. Later, in the worst-case scenario, everything might be swiftly and easily restored to its original state. After that, I archived her email into a backups file and saved additional backups of her bookmarks in her favorites folders to her backup folder on D drive. I quickly checked that my documents were empty and everything was fine, girl. Anyone who keeps data on their C operating system drive is asking for trouble and deserves to have their stuff deleted. Once all of the smaller backups were completed, I created a data DVD of the whole D-data disk, which was hers, to complete the operation. Now it was time for system maintenance. She disabled most automatic updates on her laptop because she viewed any remote access to her computer by any software manufacturer, including Microsoft, to be a security infringement. So, with the PC in my capable hands, I began manually installing operating system security, antivirus, anti-spyware, MSS, Office, and firewall patches, one at a time. It normally took hours to do this, and Reena, at her most suspicious, always attempted to stay present and keep a close eye on me the entire time. Fortunately, because she frequently had the attention span of a toddler, she would become bored watching the endlessly slow updating taskbars and begin to find excuses to leave the room for just a minute or two, eventually giving me some breathing space without her staring at me like I was a paroled felon. By the time I was nearly finished with only the OS and program upgrades, over 2 hours later, she was distracted by a phone call from a girlfriend and left me alone for 15 minutes. This was all I needed to install a new and better complete security program for her, replacing her previous antivirus, anti-spyware, and firewall. Secret SQL is a fun little program suite that effectively replaces all other security and malware protection on your computer. Much better, in my opinion, than Norton Internet Security, which is almost likely to crash any computer it is installed on. I hope Peter Norton made a lot of money by selling off his firm so he can sleep well at night. The good old days at his previous company are long gone. The finest feature of this tool, however, is that it includes a significant amount of premium malware built right in. It isn't the most popular hacker tool downloaded from Pirate Bay for nothing. I liked the program so much that I purchased a legal extended feature edition, complete with extra bells and whistles. This tool would allow me to learn the dozens of passwords she used and acquire real-time access to her email account while remaining unseen to her. I could even see her screen remotely and print it. Honestly, it was just curiosity. She closed up her laptop like it was Fort Knox, and the want to see what was stored on it gnawed at me like an unrelenting ache. I was certain I'd find nothing of interest, but I desperately wanted to be able to give her a smug, superior look, knowing that the most important state secrets she was protecting were an upcoming review of the Lizzo Cafe and an editorial predicting that royal blue would be this winter's trendy fashion color. I wish I had not done it. I can only provide the excuse that her bizarro world obsession with ever-growing levels of security around every aspect of her life was irritating me, to the point that the D-word divorce was beginning to enter my mind late at night when I couldn't sleep. To be honest, I was expecting her to get out the aluminum foil any day now and create anti-mind probe shields for herself in the dark. Darn those nasty government mind control lasers. I joked over breakfast one morning that I could wire the entire home to be a gigantic Faraday cage, but she didn't grasp it. It's probably just as well. More than anything, I wanted to prove to myself that the lady I'd married was now completely insane, and if the marriage was going to be preserved at all, it would have to be a serious fight, to have even a chance of winning. I needed some cards to set out on the table. You'd be depressed to learn how rarely cool, calm rationality triumphs over madness. We were both 42 years old and young enough to start again in the hopes of a better future. Worst-case scenario, the home may be sold and the savings amount divided. We had no children, and our state did not allow marital alimony, so the divorce should not be too traumatic if necessary. I was at a crossroads, gazing in both directions, and it was time to choose which way to go. When Reena returned, I informed her in my best geek speak that I had updated everything and everything was okay. She nearly ripped the laptop from my filthy and worthless hands and ran to relock it in her ever-present leather attaché bag. Naturally, even a word or two of gratitude was out of the question, let alone the possibility of obtaining a sincere thank you, BJ. Now or later. Men rarely ask for much in life, yet the simplest things can make us the happiest. We like to be valued. Sure, BJs are lovely, but sometimes a hug and a thank you enough. I spent the remainder of the holiday cooking, burning meat, and drinking too much beer. I couldn't wait to start breaking into her impenetrable data fortress once she arrived at work on Monday morning. As the manager of a one-man department, I can set my own schedule and frequently arrive late if I know I need to work on the computer network after hours when no users are there. But I arrived bright and early that Monday. Mondays seem to be the most common day for me to receive support requests, for some reason. The cleaners accidentally unplug wires and power cords, and the gremlins have had the weekend to cause havoc. Today's drama involved a huge issue with our email exchange email server, which took up the most of my day. Our ISP had modified one of its DNS settings for some unknown reason, and never notified its customers. This caused all of our emails to remain on sent all weekend. Morons. By the time I had everything fixed and every user satisfied, it was almost time to go home, so I decided to postpone my enjoyment for another day. Furthermore, every 24 hours, I'd receive an event record via email of everything she performed on her laptop, which was the perfect spot to begin my research. The hilarity at work resumed on Tuesday. They changed the DNS back to the old one, so I had to reset all of our email server settings, and it wasn't until late afternoon that I could load up my own master copy of a rescue URL and start playing. The rest of the week was dead calm with nothing to do, so I took advantage of the opportunity to thoroughly monitor my wife's online activity. That's how it works at my office. It's either dead dull or total chaos, with rarely anything in between. At first glance, everything I saw on her laptop matched my expectations. There will be no secret emails sent to shady government agencies or malevolent foreign countries. There are no hidden calendar entries that set up covert assignments with spy masters or lovers. There are no signs of an affair or intentions to steal City Style's whole bank account and flee to Latin America with one of the swarthy pool boys or the latest ultra-feminist pot boiler from the Oprah Book Club. I now had a comprehensive list of all of her secret passwords and had read 98% of her encrypted data files before becoming extremely bored. No, royal blue was not going to be a popular hue this winter. It was navy blue instead. Still, I awarded myself points for a near prediction. Boots mid-calf, not ankle, were the popular footwear, and the Ming Palace upmarket Chinese restaurant chain had paid for a full-page ad for the next 6 months and expected a 5-star rating. Be still, my racing heart. I wasn't sure I could take the burden of keeping these awful secrets. I should have quit right then, but I was bored at work and wanted to know what questionable websites she used to get her freak on. I shouldn't have bothered. The closest site to wealth she visited was called AR/Confessions, a very heavy, estrogen-laden website for bored soap opera housewives to confess their deepest and darkest, innermost secrets. Yawn, tentacle, or Yuri porn might have been a significant improvement. I almost called it quits right there, as I should have. Instead, I was so bored that Friday that I went through all of her logs from the previous week and noticed that she visited r/Confessions a lot every day. In fact, she often surfs there over her lunch break. This was without a doubt her favorite website to visit, since I readily admit to having a voyeuristic bent and knowing her username and password. I decided to read the web page thoroughly. I was especially eager to read Reena's articles and see what deep, dark, buried truths she wanted to reveal. Did she seek a lesbian lover? Better still, did she prefer a threesome? Or did she simply wish to tie Hugh Jackman up and cover his vulnerable, quivering nude body in chocolate syrup and whipped cream, licking it all off slowly? Inquiring minds, including mine, were desperate to find out. Using Secret Squirrel's more common feature, I remotely connected to her laptop and utilized it to discreetly access the r/Confessions website. Even if Reena is using her laptop right now, she wouldn't be able to tell I was accessing the web on her computer. This allowed me to connect to the website using her native network card, MAC, and IP address. Any tracing application would link directly to her laptop rather than my PC, miles away. Hello? Restless. This marks your 223rd visit to r/Confessions. You do not have any new private messages, and 4 users have added you as a favorite confessor since your last login. Once I signed into the website, I was able to easily access her registered confessor account management page and examine all of her prior posts. Now, I would discover everything about the dark secrets she felt compelled to reveal. The truth was more banal, and it shocked me to the core. In her dozens of posts this year, she revealed the story of a burgeoning love affair that was not with her spouse or, unfortunately, with a bisexual woman. Here are a few instances of her posts from screenshots I took. I found a new literary agency for several articles I'd like to write for major New York fashion and style publications, as well as a romantic book. He's tall and gorgeous, and he makes me tingle just looking at him. I am married, yet restless. Reader comments. Yawn. This first posting was largely ignored. There's no drama or even trolling. Another monthly meeting with my handsome agent. I know he is interested in me, and we spend a lot of time staring into each other's eyes. He's unmarried and divorced, and I'm also really restless. I've never had an affair, but I want him badly. Reader comments. You go, gal. Go for it. Tell us all the ugly facts, etc. 93 other women believed that Restless should cheat on her husband. Only 6 thought it was a bad idea, and only because she may be caught. This established the tone for the remainder of the messages. He refused me outright, but threw himself into his arms and offered me to him. And he rejected me. He refuses to have an affair with a married lady, he claims. He was eager to point out that if I divorced, it would be a whole different situation. So he loves me too, but he has ideals and cries. Reader comments. LSAT face, drug him, kidnap him, tie him up, and assault him. Once he has finished the filthy work. You got him. If you refuse to follow the rules, file a claim for assault. WTF? Nowadays, no extreme is too far to rope and mark the lover of your fantasies. For some ladies, I could see right away that this board was overflowing with craziness. It's no surprise Reena liked this website. She wasn't going to get any marriage-saving tips here. My hubby will not grant me a divorce. I found the man I genuinely adore. And the rat slime sucker will not allow me to find happiness. He has power over the money. And if I leave him, I won't get a penny of our savings or see our 2 small children again. He would ruin me during the divorce. There must be a way to escape. Reader comments. Angry expression. Do whatever it takes. Fight the filth. Sucker for everything. Take whatever he has. Give yourself some bogus injuries and blame your husband. Receive a regular stream of domestic assault police calls to your home and take photos. You'll screw him over every cent he has in court, and so on. It only became worse and scarier. The prospect of filing bogus abused spouse claims did not scare or dissuade anyone. Some readers even provided specific, helpful suggestions, apparently gleaned from experience, on how to make their claims of abuse more credible in court. Holy shit! Who were these strange women? And why was my wife now ranting about me preventing a divorce? Had we never talked about it? What? Children? This was a metric crapload of lunacy, and it got worse with each post. I need to find a means to break free. He keeps a close eye on me and double-checks everything I do. He even has my manager at work constantly checking on me for him. I don't get the opportunity to demonstrate what an awful manipulator he truly is. Getting the police to catch him will be difficult. It could be easier to attempt an alternative approach. Things would be a lot easier if I were a widow. My lovely Roger would undoubtedly be there to soothe me. Reader comments. Evil expression plus smile. Kill the abusive scum. Sucker. Honey, you deserve to be happy. And do not let anyone get in your way. Holy stuff. Did these crazy women honestly recommend murdering someone's husband in order to get a better boyfriend? There weren't as many comments here, but there was surprisingly little sanity. The overwhelming consensus was unequivocally that the purpose justified the means. The next half-dozen posts will be skipped due to extreme psychodrama overload. The insane bitches believed that I was a lunatic pedophile tyrant who abused and beat my family to within an inch of their life. In other words, an average dude, as portrayed on the Lifetime cable TV channel. Various methods of murdering me and getting away with it were discussed until one Black Widow poster, again quoting from significant personal experience, suggested an overseas source for purchasing certain nearly untraceable poisons, such as pink uranium bromide, a favorite substance of government spies and black widows worldwide. Finally, here's her last public comment from the prior week. I did it. I paid for a $100 gift card with cash and ordered a small bottle of my problem solution from their website. It should ship from India this week, and I expect to have it in my hands by July 4th, my own Independence Day. I'll put it in his coffee, where the sugar will counteract the tiny harshness and citrus flavor. Hooray! Soon, my dear Roger, soon we'll be together forever. He's urging me to hurry up and complete the task so that he can console this sad widow. I already have a gorgeous little black outfit that will be excellent for our next encounter. Reader comments, "You go, girl. More homicidal madness and so forth. Okay. Even a dullard might have guessed that my loving wife was about to poison me before fleeing into the arms of her lover. Still, as surprising as the whole situation was, it was simply too wild. I was not an abusive spouse, and I did not molest our non-existent children. The moment she sought for a divorce, it was hers. There's no argument. The entire situation made no sense. I was still alive. Obviously, her magic drug had not yet come. Just in case I decide to avoid drinking coffee at home this weekend. The entire chain of confessions seems too odd and bizarre to be true. But just in case, I print screen all of them and place the printouts in a folder that I have locked at my desk with a message to be unlocked in the event that I die. I didn't have anything to report to the police, nor was it worth calling one of my friends. I stewed over the problem for nearly an hour after I should have left work. But in the end, I trotted home like a good lamb, waiting for my death. I assumed I'd either uncover some evidence to back up this strange claim, or that it would all turn out to be enormous neurotic lunacy. By Monday, I'd either be poisoned and dead, or ready to collect my belongings and relocate somewhere else. Less crowded, yet plenty of insanity. My best opportunity to search for evidence was Saturday night. We had a modest dinner party for some work. Reena's friends, as well as everyone else, had made heavy use of the wine cellar. My wife had eaten nearly a whole bottle of red wine by herself. She doesn't drink very often, and when she does, it hits her hard and quickly. By the end of the evening, she was implying loudly that she'd have a surprise by the end of next week, but she wouldn't tell anyone, especially me, what the good news was. I had meticulously cleaned my wine glass in case she decided to spike it instead of my coffee, as she had previously mentioned. In any case, barely 5 minutes after our visitors had left, my beloved bride was stumbling toward bed and quickly out like a light, snoring profusely. This was my ideal opportunity to poke around in her pocketbook and be locked out of a laptop case. Turns out I didn't even need to try to pick that lock. The evidence I sought was inside her purse, in a little glass vial labeled pink uranium bromide. I found all of the proof I needed. I had to search it up on the internet to figure out what it did, but the information provided little satisfaction. It is a highly potent muscle relaxant that is typically too hazardous for medical usage. Just a few drops will prevent your heart from beating indefinitely. It was time to decide what to do about it. I had an old syringe in my bathroom closet at home, left over from some vet prescription we had given our dog a few months prior. I cleaned it and filled it with some of her poison, leaving the vial nearly full. She had never noticed the missing amount. I was not going to just inject her with it. No. Too simple. Too simple and too detectable. It was better to utilize dilated in something, and I quickly decided where to administer it. I didn't get any sleep all weekend. I can't explain why I did what I did next. If asked, I could explain excessive sleep deprivation and momentary lunacy. But in truth, my heart was far more broken than I had expected. I had never desired a divorce, and it now appeared that there would never be one. One Monday afternoon, while sitting in my gloomy office at work, with the lights turned off and the window shutters closed, I made a poor decision. I couldn't file for divorce right now. It was too late. I'd still get poisoned. I had to turn the tables, even if it meant dealing the initial blow in self-preservation. Saturday night, when checking Reena's purse, I discovered her small portable daytimer, calendar, and personal scheduler. This was one of her most secret treasures, and I had been dying for a short look at it. It was quite educational. Apparently, at the beginning of their relationship, Reena and Roger met monthly at a nearby cafe to discuss their business. Beginning last month, their sessions were held weekly on Friday afternoons for 2 hours at a local hotel. So much for business. They always reserved the room a week in advance and planned to return to room 243 this Friday. This was where I planned to put my trap. Obtaining a copy of the hotel key on Monday afternoon was simple. I requested that specific room and paid cash, and then I removed the key from its characteristic hotel chain, and on my first attempt, I discovered a shady locksmith prepared to produce a replica of the key for a $100 bribe. I had a few additional preparations to do that week, but the most difficult part was waiting for Friday to arrive. Reena became concerned that I no longer wanted to drink her coffee or anything else in the morning before work. I pleaded nerves and made sure to prepare my own drinks at home in the evening, primarily sealed bottled waters. The mood at home became increasingly tense, as if both of us knew the other was up to something. She never bothered to tell me her secrets. I certainly wasn't going to tell her any of mine. I gave her one last chance on late Thursday evening, while we were watching TV and not even sitting near together. Reena, you've been keeping a lot of secrets for me recently, much more than normal, even for you. Marriage is meant to be founded on love and trust, and I am not sure if we have one of those two things right now. Do you have any confessions to make to me? Should I hire a skilled divorce lawyer and leave you alone in your secretive world? Okay, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that last piece. In my defense, I was exhausted, irritated, angry, and tired of playing her little mental games. She screamed at me incoherently for 5 minutes straight, without pausing for breath. After throwing everything within arm's reach at me, she stomped angrily to bed and shut the door. I stayed on the sofa but didn't get much sleep. But I felt a lot better about my plans than I had all week. In the morning, she stomped out the door without saying anything to me. It made what I had to do even easy. My Friday plan ran smoothly. I arrived late to work with large black bags beneath my bloodshot eyes and told our corporate receptionist that I was in, but not to worry me unless there was a fire or someone bleeding to death. I slammed the door to my office and spent the rest of the morning ruminating. Just before noon, I made my covert escape via the service freight elevator. There is a security camera that monitors the loading dock, but only where trucks park and unload. I took the uncovered side entrance leading to the foyer. I'd parked in my usual reserved spot in the garage, which required a parking vehicle to enter. I used mine as usual in the morning, but I did not need it to exit the garage. There were no security cameras in the garage, so when I returned, I used a former employee's parking card to get back in. It still works. I checked it yesterday. Our office building's security was lax, and the building administration was a bunch of slackers who needed to be informed at least 5 times before doing anything. My departure and return would not be documented or noted. The hotel room was in the back of the building, in a pretty secluded corner, ideal for some midday seclusion during their dalliance. There was one security camera covering the hotel's parking lot, close where I could stroll up the outdoor stairs to my room without being viewed. I had already taken care of it. I'd shot it with my .22 scoped rifle late on Wednesday night, from a dark and empty parking lot across the street. It was a simple, short-range shot that I executed flawlessly on the first attempt. It had not been replaced or particularly noted. I imagine security cameras break all the time at hotels, since they are hotbeds for lowlifes stealing travelers' bags and autos. I stepped inside, did my business, and was out in less than 5 minutes. There was no stress or haste, and I was unusually calm. I still had to wait about 25 minutes for the happy couple to arrive. Reena, I knew I could count on arriving early. She was always at least 5 minutes early for her appointments, but I had no idea how Roger's internal clock worked. I put my car in a secluded area of the parking lot so Reena won't notice me when she drives up, and I slunk down low to wait. I didn't have to wait long to realize Roger was also running early. They arrived almost simultaneously in separate automobiles, exchanged a great hug at the hotel entryway, then proceeded inside without making any additional gestures. Reena was not one for public shows of affection. She didn't like it when I held her hand in public. Still, I was a little disappointed. I had hoped to see something irrefutable, some clear sign of intimacy between them, something she had never revealed with me, something to clear any residual uncertainties in my mind. But I was not going to get it. After Reena stormed out of the house this morning, I had one more task to complete. I'd spent an hour packing several of her suitcases with her nicest outfits, jewels, skimpy lingerie, and nightwear. Not that there was a lot of it. And so on. Anything that I expected a woman to pack on short notice for a separation or a crazy weekend with a new partner. I had a set of keys for her trunk, so I placed her 3 luggage inside and closed it. My work is now done with the old employee gate access card. I returned to work and slunk back up the freight elevator and into my office, where no one could see me. There are no messages attached to my door or glaring red lights on my phone. I had not been missed. I made a token tour around the workplace to be seen, but then retreated to my cave of sadness to sulk for the rest of the afternoon. My nerves were shot, and my mental batteries were fully exhausted. I had nothing left to do in my life but wait, and I had to wait for quite some time. There were no phone calls at work that afternoon, or at home later that evening. Nothing happened throughout the night. I drank a drink or two to calm my anxieties and refrain from pacing holes in the carpet. But that only made matters worse. So I drank some more, cracked up an excellent bottle of rum that I'd been saving for a special occasion, and sipped it in front of late-night TV until nearly daybreak Saturday, when I passed out on the sofa. When I awoke in the middle of the afternoon, I resumed the party where I had left off the night before, and I was quite pickled by the time a couple of police officers came at my door shortly after 6 p.m., after a lot of preliminaries, such as establishing that Reena lived here, or used to until yesterday morning. In my name and relationship with her, we got down to business, sir. Do you know where your wife is? I don't know, and can't say I care anymore. We separated yesterday morning. She's off with her beau. I believe she's been having an affair with her literary agent. Go ask him. She had packed her suitcases and everything. I'll file divorce papers on Monday. She's had an accident, but we can't tell you anything else at this moment. I tried to act shocked, but I was too drunk and depressed to care. That answered the most of their initial queries. Good. Because in my current state, I wasn't sure what responses I was providing. My very authentic act of a cuckolded and abandoned spouse appeared to be spot on, and it did not raise any red lights with the police. They were not investigators. They were just patrol officers who received a call from dispatch to notify the next of kin. I told them to gaze whatever they wished, then went into the kitchen to battle Reena's sophisticated Italian coffee machine. I was a drowsy, maudlin drunk at the time, and I needed some coffee to wake up enough to become a fully alert drunk. I fought the machine for nearly half an hour before giving up, unplugging it, and offering it as a door prize to the officers. Reena had a stronger attachment to that thing than I did. Apparently, and I'm shocked she didn't carry it with her. It grinds, roasts, and boils everything but plain bloody coffee. She can make espressos, cappuccinos, lattes, and other beverages, but she cannot brew a simple cup of coffee. They declined my gift, so I placed the machine on the curb next to the garbage can. I noted that it vanished around the same time the officers left. Sneaky scum suckers. After they went, I resumed my small one-person party and drank the rest of my rum bottle before snuggling up on the bathroom floor in front of the toilet for a long, unbroken sleep till Sunday morning. I showered, but opted not to shave and didn't drink any more wine for breakfast. In fact, I made enough for 3 people and ate it all. Then I spent the afternoon packing up whatever Reena had left in the house and moving it into the garage. By early evening, I was still feeling ambitious and had begun to mow the grass when a police detective arrived to formally question me. Officially, I was advised that my wife and another man had been found dead in a hotel room under exceedingly unusual circumstances. But he wouldn't offer me any more information. Did I want to make any statements? Sure. I told him all I believed he should know. What makes it so odd? Ask anyone who knew my wife, and I'll tell you at least a dozen names. They would all agree that she was a raving psychopath. Most of her friends have better manners and would just describe her as exuberant and odd. Reena was a severe manic depressive, just like her mother. No one could ever get her into a doctor's office to get medicated. She was on a frenzied high last weekend, assuring everyone she had excellent news coming shortly. But by Thursday night, she was in a depressive state about something she loved to keep hidden and had never told me. Between you, me, and the lamppost, I believe she intended to flee with her sweetheart, but he may have changed his mind. She admitted Thursday night that she was having an affair and wanted to leave, and she went for work on Friday morning with some baggage. I believe her affair was with her literary agency, but I cannot prove it. The detective answered, "I've never met the man I see," implying that I should continue. "Could you please tell me how she died?" "Wait, skip it, I don't really care. Since you're standing here asking me questions, I'm going to presume it's something bad, like murder or suicide. That would be suitable for Reena. I'll bet there's no suicide note. That would necessitate some regard for others, as she did not have a drop-off. Not even I apologize for the inconvenience. My guess is that she snapped when he told her he wasn't going to run off and play house with her, and she stabbed him about 30 or 40 times before jumping to her death on the busiest freeway in town, most likely during rush hour traffic, to cause the most inconvenience for everyone. Have I nailed it? Not exactly. The detective replied with a smile. And before you ask, I do not wish to visit the morgue to see or identify the body. You can contact her mother about that. I'll give you the phone number. My interest or worry for my wife, or rather my now deceased wife, ended the instant she slammed the front door with suitcases in hand. Good riddance. I don't want to see her or her body anymore. I won't be attending the funeral, and I especially do not want her ashes. I apologize if this sounds heartless, cold, or cruel, but I'm just thanking God right now that she didn't start her insane spree by killing me first. All of her belongings are stored in the garage. You can read it whatever you want and even take anything you believe will be useful. But until I'm instructed otherwise, it's all heading to Goodwill later next week. The detective circled the home and asked a few more questions, none of which were direct or deceptive. He shook my hand, wished me well, and drove away. It was the last time anyone connected in the investigation had asked me anything. No, I did not go to the morgue or attend the funeral. Her mother attempted to sign me up for the most extensive funeral package. The mortuary she chose offered, but a short call to the owner cleared it up. Since I was evidently going to be stuck with the bill as the legal guardian of her estate. Yes, we had wills. I demanded the cheapest possible cremation. The funeral home offered. Her mother threw dozens of fits, but I was used to her daughter's childish conduct and didn't have to put up with it anymore. I warned her to shut up and take the urn home with her, or I'd bury the contents in a roadside ditch near a toxic waste dump. In case she missed the hint, I congratulated her. Hallmark card with a small personal note requesting that you forget my address and phone information and never contact me again. She never picked up that awful urn. I still have it in the closet next to Christmas, wrap up in winter clothing. Out of sight, very out of mind. Someday I'll find the perfect place to finally get rid of her for good. The probe lasted months, albeit in a very low-key manner. The delay was due to the outcome of the negotiations for both victims, as well as the need for an IT forensics team to fix her laptop. The first investigators who handled it attempted to brute force their way past her login panels and activated her scorched earth last line of protection. a security applet that immediately wiped the disks with ones and zeros, scrambling everything into permanent garbage. Naturally, this piqued their interest in learning what secrets she was trying to keep from them. They submitted it to 2 different data recovery labs to be rebuilt, but they never retrieved anything, according to what I've heard. Nobody ever asked me if she had any backups. I would have gladly offered them properly. Nobody got to read Reena's mad writings during her confessions, which upset me because I wanted everyone to know how insane my ex-wife was. Fortunately, the final coroner's findings supported the police's verdict of murder-suicide. Her fingerprints were discovered on a glass vial of pink uranium bromide, a highly prohibited and controlled material in non-medical hands, during a search of her locked desk drawer. A work generated the original postal label and shipment from India, which were also covered in her prints. The chemical was given through a pitcher of water located on a table inside the hotel room, poisoning both victims. Sliced lemons and limes floating in the water had obscured the flavor. A supermarket bag with extra lemons and limes was discovered in the trunk of her automobile, next to her baggage. An empty syringe carrying drug residue was discovered on the floor next to the dresser, where the water pitcher was originally placed by housekeeping. The final police complaint was closed, saying that Reena left her spouse with the intention of eloping with her new partner, who evidently picked this time to announce that he was already married and would not abandon his wife. In her wrath, Reena poisons the 2 of them. It wasn't ideal or exceptionally nice and tidy, but all of the witness interviews with Reena's friends and co-workers agreed that she was a little manic-depressive, and she was particularly depressed. On that final Friday, it fit the facts, so the police stamped the case, closed it, and moved on to other investigations without looking back. Roger's widow? Yes, the literary agent was presumably happily married. He always denied having an affair with Reena, but could not provide an other explanation for why the 2 of them met weekly in a hotel room. Both were still fully dressed, and a considerable amount of literary paperwork was discovered on the hotel room table. It was supposed that Roger had been preoccupied with business since attempting to end the romance, the last meeting before Reena poisoned them. She was heartbroken. I was more than convinced that my retribution was complete until about 6 months later, when I received a phone call from a book publisher inquiring about the status of Reena's novel, Deal. What novel? Reena and her agent were in the final stages of signing a contract to sell her first novel. The publisher had requested some last-minute modifications to the text and had heard nothing about its status since. I knew nothing about it. So I called the police inspector who had paid me a visit to see if they had discovered a novel manuscript in Reena's personal possessions, which were locked up in an evidence storage container. There was. They also discovered a little USB drive concealed in her laptop case that had an encrypted duplicate of the original text. The police IT forensics team had partially breached that security enough to confirm that the document was most likely unrelated to the crime, and I'd basically forgotten about it because I needed to sign a load of papers to claim her property from police evidence. But because the matter was considered closed, they were relieved to be rid of it all. I believe they phoned me about this a few months ago, and I ordered them to throw it all away. Fortunately, they had not. Her novel was quite enlightening, and as I read it, my doubts and concerns grew. By the end, I was convinced that I had murdered a severely insane but otherwise blameless woman. Her story was a thriller about a beaten and abused woman who finds consolation on an internet gossip and confession board. The heroine gradually gets the courage to fight back against her oppressor, and she eventually learns how to purchase legal and deadly medications from unregulated overseas pharmacies. She poisons her husband's coffee and flees police custody. She lives happily with a new man. This is the end of the story. The facts suddenly began to resemble her story far too closely for comfort. Was she indeed crazy and constructing her ideal fantasy only to poison me in the end? Or was she simply an extremely secretive beginner writer who drew inspiration from real life and tested every step her fictitious murderess would take, including ensuring that such a lethal poison could be easily purchased overseas and even supplied directly to her workplace? Was she a batshit crazy murderess, or simply a crazy paranoid lady who refused to share the secret of her impending literary fame until the final contract was signed? Or both? I simply didn't know anymore. It became quite tired. Over the next year, well-meaning people kept asking how I was doing. What's the answer? Fine, I suppose. Never satisfied anyone. In reality, I was not doing really well at all. I had shed a lot of weight, but I still couldn't sleep well. I would simply stay awake for half of most nights, going over everything Reena and I had said or done during our final year of marriage. I looked for a missing, ignored clue, but never found one. I signed the contract, authorizing her publisher to print her manuscript under a fictitious name. First, a compact hardback version was distributed mostly to libraries, followed by a mass-market paperback. I negotiated a hefty upfront fee with any subsequent earnings donated in perpetuity to a men's legal defense center specializing in false assault, spousal, and child abuse cases. Reena would have enjoyed the irony. I reserved all other rights to the book and refused to provide any marketing aid. I just wanted to be over with it all. Naturally, Lifetime wanted to develop a film adaptation of her story, highlighting men's intrinsic violence. Probably. But I told them they could go suck eggs. No chance in 7 hells. I intended to use those TV and film rights until my death. Even reading her published work in its final form furnished me with no more indications that I had overlooked earlier. Was I an actual killer, or had I just barely escaped death? A year later, I still didn't have any answers. But now I had a new question. What to do with or say to the new woman who wanted to be a part of my new life? Selena was a cheerful, short blonde in her late 20s, with a failed marriage behind her and a motor mouth that couldn't stop talking about everything and nothing from morning to night. In almost every sense, she was the complete opposite of Reena. Selena could not keep a secret from anyone, even if her life depended on it, and we rapidly developed trust. We were still in the sleepover stage of our relationship, but there was a suggestion that she was ready to move her belongings into stay. I was almost ready to let go. The intercourse was wild and spontaneous, and she was eager to reward me with more and better sex. She was a woman who knew the tiny nuances of expressing gratitude. Saturday was quickly becoming a regular steak and BJ night, and when I completed a minor computer repair for a friend of hers, she repaid me by volunteering herself for my use that evening. She had fantasies and wants to experience at least 100 different kinky things eventually. Semi-public sex? Sure. A naked beach? Absolutely. 3-way with a gorgeous girlfriend? Perhaps someday. Wink. I decided Selena would be my penance. I was certain that I would be completely deaf by the age of 50, probably self-inflicted with a red-hot poker to my ears. It might take her an hour to recount a basic narrative about going to the shoe store and not buying anything, but at least we wouldn't be keeping any secrets. She trusted me fully, and I was gradually realizing that I could trust her. Nonetheless, I decided to make one final confession. I visited our local public library and sat down at one of their computers. I then connected to a half-dozen proxies to mask my IP address, signed on to our /confessions, and made a new account for my confession. Hello, Crossroads. This is your first visit to her /confessional. You have received no new private messages, and no people have added you as a favorite confessor since your last login. New confession. I have a dirty little rotten secret that I must reveal. I murdered my wife a year ago, and I no longer regret it. She was a batshit crazy, lying bitch who couldn't trust anyone to turn off a light switch without her supervision. The world is a less chaotic place without her. And I have a new, extremely attractive younger girlfriend who wants to screw me at least twice a day. My formerly beloved wife could still be alive today if you hadn't given her utterly mad, rabid, man-hating advice. Oh, we would be divorced. However, there are considerably worse things. Instead, imagine a 6-foot-deep grave. You encouraged her, even demanded, that she discover progressively immoral and unlawful ways to dispose of me, culminating in a mass orgy of sociopathic blathering that only my imminent murder could stop global warming. Solve the energy dilemma. Provide free government health care and education to everyone, and make the world safe for fat Dove bar wanking dingbats. You all sound fat. I can tell by all the anti-male howling. Put down the ice cream bowl and get to the gym. On the other hand, my late wife was a cunning and manipulative bitch. There's a fair probability she was merely a poser here, spewing out her insane beliefs for global dominance over her sick classmates. This is the center of internet craziness. Or perhaps this is number 2 after fortune. Both areas require plenty of eye bleach after visiting. So either my wife attempted to murder me with your support, help, and extensive guidance, or she was simply a neurotic dingbat attempting to be covert, but otherwise absolutely innocent of obeying you nutnuts. I don't know the truth, and I don't care. Flip a coin. It's 50-50. Regardless, I blame you for her death. In the unusual event that you wish to confess your crimes, I do not care. I have determined to live, and I'll treat my sexy new girlfriend much better than my late wife ever did. Unlike most of you at Frozen Dove Bar, I'm going to get laid, and for those of you who have no qualms about proposing my murder, I kindly and genuinely advise you to take a bath with a toaster or go die in a fire, whichever is more convenient. Leave the intersection. Following this post, I immediately deactivated my account and cleared the browser cache, ensuring that I was forever free of their lunacy. I had determined to live and be happy. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.